Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will be found out. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 9. Welcome back, everybody, to the Insightful Podcast. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Something has been on my mind recently that I believe will make a great podcast topic, and that is discussing virtue. What is virtue, and how can we begin to live a virtuous life? This will be discussed in this episode, so stay tuned till the end. And if you guys are enjoying the Insightful Podcast, click on that subscribe button and let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover in the future. Okay, let's get into this. First, we need to start with what the definition is. The definition of virtuous is having or showing high moral standards. So, why was this on my mind? Um, just thinking about how we go about living our lives and how we go about going through the world. I feel like less and less people are trying to be virtuous. A lot of negative stuff happens in the world. There's a lot of things, for example, on social media that promotes the complete opposite of virtue, right? It's become a cool thing now to cheat or, backstab someone and cut people off and ghost them. So I feel that I just wonder why this became a popular thing. And I think it has a lot to do with just what we're seeing on social media, right? And I think that myself personally, I want to start to live a more virtuous life. So that's why I decided to want to talk about this today. So going back to it, do I want to live a virtuous life? The pros and cons. So when we think about it, the pros are that you feel better within yourself. You feel like you are living a more fulfilled life. But the cons are you have to give up a lot of things. You know, I believe that being virtuous is being kind, and maybe you have to be kind to people that don't deserve it. And that's probably a really hard thing for most people, including myself, right? Because even if someone you dislike or someone that did something to you that you didn't like at all and you stop talking to them, the virtuous thing would be to maybe forgive them, but we find that hard most of the time, right? So when it comes to the pros and cons, it's got to be outweighed, and I feel like the virtuous life is always the better one, you know. And even when it comes to certain things like discipline is a major virtue that I feel that everyone should practice. And this being disciplined is hard, waking up early every single day and chasing something that you don't have yet is very difficult, but you need that virtue of discipline to keep pushing forward. And the complete opposite is having zero discipline. And if you have zero discipline, you can't achieve any of your goals because no matter what you're pursuing, if it's high school like grades, like higher grades, if it's getting a degree, if it's getting a new job, a better job, a higher position, or if it's building your business, building this podcast, whatever the case may be, you need to be disciplined, right? You can't be slacking. You can't be making excuses not to do something. So that's where it comes to I think the pros always outweigh the cons when it comes to living a virtuous life because maybe right now it's not the best and it feels hard, but in the future you'll thank yourself for being virtuous. And the biggest reason why I started thinking about this was due to my belief in God. So about 2 years ago now, I think it was, yeah, almost 2 years in 2022 November, I had this inclination to start going to church. And when I started going to church, I started to become more religious and think more about what I was doing and how it would affect me in my future, And doing this allowed me to get closer to God. And in order to get closer to God, you have to have virtues. You have to live a certain way, right? And it's very difficult nowadays to live a virtuous life because of all of our distraction, all the things telling us not to, right? All the things holding us back. It's crazy because like even for example, let's say you don't want to be such of a glutton and eat all these unhealthy foods all the time. You get invited to birthday parties, regular parties, whatever the case may be, and you end up cheating back on your diet, right? And then you're not living, you're not sticking through with what you say. And I feel that with being virtuous, it helps better your soul when you're practicing these virtues. And when you go back on your word all the time, you feel ashamed of yourself. And then you're not going to want to pursue these virtues afterwards because you just feel ashamed of yourself and you feel like you're not good enough. So it kind of ends up being a bad cycle, you know? So I want to also discuss my lack of virtue growing up. So what were my issues and what were my problems that allowed me to be far from a virtuous person? And that was, for example, cutting people off the wrong way. So when I was younger, if I didn't like someone or if I got into an argument with someone and I didn't want to speak to them anymore, I just block them, cut them off like that, or ghost them. And this has become a very common thing in our society. A lot of people are ghosting people, they're cutting off people the wrong ways when it should, in my opinion, from what I've learned, is everything should come down to a conversation. You know, if you don't want to be with someone anymore and you don't want to be with someone anymore, you should have the conversation, the hard conversation, and let them know. Don't just block them or cut them off. And I will be the first one to say that I did this when I was younger. You know, if I didn't want to speak to someone anymore or I didn't want them in my life, it was something as simple as ghosting them. Because think about the reason why we do this. It's because it's the easy way out, right? You don't have to have that tough conversation. You don't have to get into that conflict. You just block their number, block them on all social medias, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. But this is not the right way of doing it. You need to have the hard conversation. You need to hear them out, them hear you out, and then you guys come to a conclusion like that. So that was something I was really bad at when I was younger because I was afraid of the conflict. Another thing was a lack of caring about the other person's emotions. I was always so obsessed with making sure that I was okay or making sure that I felt okay, not the other way around, you know? So I would only do things that would benefit myself. And this comes from, I guess, a selfish type of nature within myself when I was younger. And because of that, you know, you get to not have genuine relationships with people because you're always thinking about how does this benefit me, you know? And seeing that and thinking about myself and reflecting is I thought to myself, oh, I'm never going to have a genuine connection with people if I don't allow myself to care about how they're feeling, right? So when you do that and you think, hey, I need to worry about myself, I need to focus on myself, I don't care what's going on with them. Think about if you keep doing this, you're never going to have any genuine connections with others because in order to have a good relationship with someone, you need to care about their emotions and they need to care about yours. So think about that the next time because the second I thought about that, I'm like, oh, maybe this is why I could have better relationships with people, you know? And then another I guess hindrance I had when it came to virtue growing up was being angry at the world, getting mad at someone when I don't get my way, for example. And I feel that maybe we're all a victim to this when we're young because we're always so focused on ourselves. So we would just get angry at people for no reason, and that alone is another a bad way of living, right? Because maybe you're not getting your way and then you get mad at the world. They're like, oh, why is this happening to me, why me, all this type of conflict within your mind. But you have to understand that these things, that life happens how does it go again? I can't remember, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And yeah, that was just another a bad thing of mine. I was always angry all the time, had no control over my anger. And once I was able to reflect on this, I thought to myself, oh, I don't want to be like this forever. So I had to make a change. So what allowed me to change when it came to becoming a more virtuous person? I'm still someone that is far from what I consider like the pinnacle, but I also have improved a lot. So that's why I want to speak about it. And what changed was, for example, the first thing was discovering Stoicism. So started reading books, started understanding, hey, maybe I could have a control over my emotions, right? And discovering Stoicism, read books from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and they allowed me to understand my emotions better because I think we just react to our emotions all the time and we don't try to understand why we are feeling a certain way. For example, if someone insults you, why are you angry at it? Is it because they're right? Is it because you care so much about their opinion? You have to ask yourself these questions in order to come to a conclusion. So once I realized that, I'm like, oh, if this person insults me, why am I getting angry? oh, I actually don't really care that much. I'm mad because they said it. I can't control what they say. If they want to say that, it is what it is. I don't need to react to it and make a big fuss about it. I just move on about my life, right? And Stoicism allowed me to see my emotions in a different perspective and allow me to grow from them and understand them and not be so um I think we look at our emotions, and when they're very high we try to escape them and try to forget about them, but we need to experience it. We're human. So it's not about like anymore from before was distracting myself from anger or whatnot. It was sitting in that anger and understanding why it's happening and then pushing through it, not just trying to forget about it or trying to get my mind off of it, and that's what Stoicism taught me. And then the next thing, like I said before, was discovering my connection with God, right? Because I did not want to be someone that was angry all the time or had no virtues and had no standards, And I think that's the blessing when it comes to Christianity for myself, is that it teaches you a lot of standards. It teaches you how to treat people in the right way, how to treat yourself the right way, you know and if you're someone that has high standards about yourself, you won't jeopardize them for your emotions or jeopardize them to feel good in certain situations. And if we all allow ourselves to discover that and understand that, I feel that we would all be better people and better versions of ourselves. And that's what we're chasing, right? And then another thing that helped me a lot and allowed me to change was thinking about how other people acted around me and how I didn't want to be like that. This is something that I think, I don't know if it's spoken about enough, but looking at others and looking at the way they live their lives or the way they treat others or the way they treat themselves, and understanding, hey, I don't want to be like that. Because you could learn a lot from someone that you don't want to be like. Because we're always taught, oh, you need role models, you need role models, you need someone that you could kind of mirror and become. But no, I think it's a very good practice to look at people that you don't want to be like and understand why they are the way they are so that you could avoid that, right? For example, it's like someone that has no good friendships. They're around a lot of people, but there's no true connection. You understand that, hey, maybe when this person is around their friends, they're not treating them right, or they're always talking shit about them, or they're speaking about them behind their back and gossiping. Once you see those things, you'll be like, okay, that guy lost a good friendship because of the way he was acting and the way he was treating that person. I'm not going to do those things so I don't lose my own friendship, right? Or for example, someone that's very unhealthy and doesn't move much, you could look at yourself and be like, that could be me in the future. If I don't exercise, if I don't train, in the future I could potentially be like that. So it's all about looking at others, and I guess it's not comparing, but it's understanding their experience. And once you understand their experience, you could apply it to your own life and either try to take what you want from it and apply it, or try to learn from it and kind of avoid what could happen to you. And this all comes down to, I think, we need to fix our souls. That's the problem. And people will say, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" It's such a vague thing to say. But what I believe is your soul is, for example, you told yourself that you were gonna wake up at 4 a.m. and you promised yourself you would. But then the next morning you wake up, it's 4 a.m., and then you snooze that alarm. And then the next thing you know, you're up at 7. And then you say to yourself, you had this weird feeling inside yourself of shame and anger towards yourself. That is your soul. That is weakening your soul because you're making promises to yourself that you can't keep and you can't follow through. So we need to fix ourselves so that we always feel good about ourselves, because when we feel good about ourselves, we're confident and we perform better, right? We need to do something we know we shouldn't. When we do something we know we shouldn't, we feel horrible about ourselves. For example, if you promised your mom that you would be home early so you could cook dinner, right? But then something comes up and you're hanging out with your friends and you totally forget about it. Yeah, you feel good in that moment, but when you come home and it's late, you realize, damn, I made a promise to my mom and I didn't follow through. That's the issue there, right? That's when our souls feel at its worst. Is, like I said before, is not going through with those promises that you make to yourself. And what this becomes is like what I said earlier, but I'm going to elaborate more, is the endless cycle of shame. You know, you you promise yourself, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, hey, I'm going to work on my side hustle. You do all these things, and then you say, okay, Tuesday I'm going to do it. Here comes Tuesday, and you don't do it. And then Wednesday you say you're going to do it, and then you don't do it. This is just constantly defeating our character and defeating our soul. Well, we start to become ashamed of who we are, and we think we're not good enough because we keep jeopardizing what we said we were going to do for the momentary pleasure, right? It's much easier to go watch Netflix than it is to go to the gym. But afterwards, you'll feel ashamed of yourself if you ended up watching Netflix and skipping the gym. But you definitely won't feel ashamed of yourself if you went to the gym and hit a good workout, you know? So we need to do this. We can't let these cycles of shame spiral and keep failing our promises to ourselves, right? And our promises to others. Next thing is we have to have higher standards regarding our virtue, but this will take practice, right? If for example you're someone that is saying, I'm no longer going to gossip about people, I'm no longer going to talk about shit about others, this is going to be out of my conversations, I'm not doing this anymore. Don't think you just saying that and then the next day or the next hour you're just a completely different person, because if you've been someone that has been gossiping about others for a long long time, you're not going to break it overnight. But what it does take is a lot of internal reflection and assessing what you're doing. So if you go hang out with your friends and you're someone that talks shit about other people, or you gossip about other people while you're with those people, you got to ask yourself, okay, today I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it at all. And then maybe they might ask you, and then you explain to them what's going on and why you feel this way and why you don't no longer want to have those types of conversations. A week from that conversation you had with those people, you might gossip again. But the biggest thing is that we don't give up. We don't say, you want to know what? This is just in my nature. I have to do it. It is what it is. You have to keep striving to do more, right? And people will say, oh, why are you speaking about this? Do you do the same thing? Of course, I struggle with it too. But I'm never going to stop trying to not be that person, right? It's like, if you're going, I always use gym analogies because that's what I know. But it's like if you cheat on your diet. If you cheat on your diet consistently, like once every week, and then it comes to the end of the week, you end up cheating on your diet. And then you say to yourself, you want to know what? I keep cheating on my diet. I'm just going to give up. No more dieting. It's like, no, you have to keep trying. You have to keep wanting to be someone that doesn't cheat on their diet. I rather be that person. I rather live my whole life trying to become something, and it's a very difficult thing, than giving up. It's it's for example, if I say to myself, I need to go to the gym 7 days a week, even though that's too much, but let's say I wanted to do that. If the next week comes by and I only go 5 times, I'm still going to tell myself next week I'm going to go seven. And then if I fail again, I'm going to say next week I'm going to go seven. And I'm going to keep trying my best until I make it a habit. Because what will happen if I don't? It may look like a broken cycle because, hey, you keep telling yourself. And it's kind of a contradiction to what I was saying before. But the difference is maybe by the fourth week I do go seven. And then the fifth week I do go seven. And then I make it a habit and I finally follow through with my promise. If I would have gave up on the second week when I said I was going to go seven and I only went 5 times, then I would have never gotten to that point. So all it takes is never giving up on building your character and building your virtue. Never just being like, oh, this is the way I am, so it is what it is. You can never do that. And then another way to, I guess I would say personally, the last way is don't indulge in repeated pleasure, right? Because repeated pleasure is the opposite of virtue. It's you're disciplined on your diet, all these things, and then you cheat on Saturday, then you cheat on Sunday. It's going to kind of reset all the hard work you put in and the discipline you put in with your diet throughout the whole week, right? So you got to think to yourself, "Oh, I can't do this. I can't allow this like indulge in pleasure because obviously we all chasing some form of pleasure, even success. Success is a form of pleasure because when you have the money you want, you have the success you want, you have the reputation you want, it's pleasurable, right? But we can't allow ourselves to do it constantly. It's like if you want to start working harder and doing more in a day, and you wake up early 6 times in a row. The seventh day you end up sleeping in because you're so tired. Don't allow yourself to go down a cycle of now Sunday you slept in, Monday you slept in, Tuesday you slept in, Wednesday you slept past the alarm. Because these repeated pleasures will just reset all the hard work you put in before. So don't allow yourself to fall trap to that. All right, guys, I think that's all I wanted to speak about today when it comes to living a more virtuous life. Thing about the podcast is it has been difficult, I guess, with these episodes being alone because I'm not quite used to speaking on the camera just by myself and not in a conversation setting. But I'm going to keep doing it. I want to get better at it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to hear your guys' opinion on, does living a virtuous life seem appealing to you? Or is it something that you want to do or you don't even care about? Let me know in the comments. I feel that it is very important, and as we develop and grow as people, we will always most likely strive to live a more virtuous life. You hear all these stories, right? When older people say to us, "Oh, I used to do this when I was younger. I used to do that, and I regretted it." And they're older and they live a better life, a more virtuous life. They have better standards. So I feel like eventually all of us, as we grow older, will veer off to that path. All right, guys. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please tap that subscribe button so you can see future ones, and like the video so more people can discover the insightful podcast. Go to Spotify as well, guys, because Spotify is a big thing and I'm trying to grow the Spotify, and give the insightful podcast a follow. That helps out a lot. And I do polls on there for certain questions, or let I ask you guys how you like the episode or other things you want to see in the future. So go respond to that if you'd like. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and this is episode 3, so we're just getting started, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, my friends.